Alrighty, my name is Athena Bowker, and this is my demonstrative speech on how to make banana bread. My speaking outline is right next to me here, and my recipe I'm going to follow is over here. And I'm going to set up right here. And here we go. So, to begin, making banana bread is simpler than you think. All you need to do is follow a couple of simple steps. And the first step that I'm going to talk about today is something called mise en place. And what mise en place is the French term for basically getting all of your ingredients and your utensils together before you begin to cook or bake something. So I have taken the liberty of looking at the recipe beforehand and preheating the oven, greasing my pan for my banana bread, and I have portioned and separated all of my wet and dry ingredients out before I begin to bake. So this is my sugar and my melted butter and my egg and my baking powder, my salt, and my flour is next to me. I'm going to measure it out as we go because I have a measuring cup, the utensil that I need, right next to me, so I can do that very quickly and simply. So I have gathered all of the things that I need beforehand, and I have also taken the liberty of pre-measuring everything that I have needed beforehand. And I have also gathered some of the utensils that I may need later on, such as a mixing spoon and my greased baking pan. So, now that everything is ready to go, the next thing you have to do is simply follow the recipe. And according to mise en place, you should have read the recipe before you have started to bake your bread, which I did. And so the recipe calls to combine all of the wet ingredients first, and this includes the sugar, the egg, and the melted butter in a separate bowl from the dry ingredients. So we're going to do that right now. Got 1/4 of a cup of melted butter into the wet ingredient bowl. I've got 1 egg, as the recipe called for, 1 egg into the bowl. Okay. Okay, and we have 1½ cups of sugar going into the bowl as well. And I am just going to mix all that together. And I'm double checking my recipe to make sure I didn't forget any ingredients before I mix the bowl. So we have our sugar, egg, and butter. Oh, and I almost forgot the most important part. We have our mashed bananas. 3 mashed bananas go into the wet ingredients as well, so put those in there. Okay, so now we can mix everything up in the bowl. And you just want to make sure it's all mixed and distributed evenly. Alrighty, now our recipe says in a separate bowl to mix the dry ingredients, which include the flour, the baking powder, and the salt. So we will go ahead and do that. And the recipe called for 2 cups of flour. And the baking soda. It actually says to add the salt later, so I'm glad that we double checked and that we were following the recipe accurately as we were going along. Now it says to combine the wet and the dry ingredients into the bigger bowl, so I am doing so now. There we go. Stir that up a little bit. And you just want to make sure that everything is mixed evenly and distributed evenly. Otherwise, your bread in some places will come out tasting different than others. Alright, so we're mixing all that together. Alright, now, step 3, once your batter is pretty much mixed and made, add the salt in last is what the recipe said. Finally, what you're going to want to do, once everything is mixed all together, is you're going to want to, if you want, you can add your own twist to the banana bread recipe. Now, you don't want to alter anything about the actual original recipe because then the texture or the taste of your bread can get thrown off, but you can add little things such as chocolate chips or walnuts or something like orange zest or anything like that. As the baker, I've decided to just leave this one plain. The other option that you can do is once the banana bread comes out of the oven, is you could add something on top for some flair, such as like some jam, some powdered sugar, something like that. You know, just have fun with it, make it your own. And so the last step to bake banana bread is pouring the batter into a pan, and which I have already greased and done up. So we will just pour this into the pan and set this into the oven, which has already been preheated to 325 degrees due to my preparation and mise en place. So we will pour that into the pan there. So, this took me less than 10 minutes to prep and read the recipe, and then about 6 minutes to make the batter. So by utilizing my mise en place skills, by following the recipe accurately, and by suggesting that some could add their own spin onto it, making banana bread is much easier than most people think. So I'm just going to set this in the oven and let that bake for about an hour as the recipe says. And when it is done, it will come out looking something like this. Very nice, very nice.